You're listening to the Behind the Tee podcast, hosted by your favorite club curlers, Rob and Kelly. The show where we share our thoughts on what's happening in the curling world with the internet. But let's be real, we end up talking about football half the time anyways. Hello, Rob.
Hey, Kelly, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad. We've worked out the kinks. This is going to be way better than last week. We're pros at this again, right?
Yeah, I noticed while editing last week's episode that we got a little rusty over the summer. So I hope that this week won't be as painful to edit as last week.
If you're new to this, Kelly does all the work behind this. So if we sound half decent, it's because of her.
The magic of editing is a powerful thing.
And it takes a lot of editing to make us sound like we know what we're talking about.
And even then, it's a little bit of a stretch.
That's right. Hey, so we did cover some ground last week. We talked about controversial rule changes being proposed and things like that. But I think the highlight that we've got to open up to the audience here is our idea, by which I really mean yours, to make a Netflix series for curling. Mm-hmm. And the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, that's one of the better ideas I've heard of promoting the sport. And of course, we're basing this off the Formula One show, right? The Drive to Survive. And how we're going to rip it off and create Slide to Survive, with all these behind the scenes glamorous, or I shouldn't say glamorous and curling don't really go in the same sentence. But all these behind the scenes footage and things and drama, right? That's what we're going for.
Yeah. That's the key, is you want to get people interested. You need drama. People just can't help themselves. That's why reality TV is so popular, is because people love watching people be dramatic.
That's right. And you won't get it much from us, but when it comes to that, I was thinking we both know, and in fact everyone out there knows, there is lots of drama in the curling world. Mm-hmm. But it's usually pretty swept under the rug, right? So I don't know how it would play out if people would be willing to air their curling drama in a Netflix special. However, I found somebody who I think we should interview first if he gets landed on the show. And granted, we're 10 years late to the party here. But I'm thinking Randy Ferbey. First appearance of the year on the podcast for Randy Ferbey. He somehow came up every day last year, right?
Yeah.
But he should be involved because in doing some very brief research for this episode, I stumbled across an old feud he had with another curler that was lots of drama, let's just say. And while I would normally respect the privacy of the curlers involved, we're maybe suggesting we shouldn't do that anymore. But also, this was in a national newspaper, so it's all out there anyway.
I think the rule of thumb is if it's been published, then it's fair game to talk about to a certain extent.
Exactly. I'd rather talking to the National Post or whatever this article is from 2011. Think of like Netflix cameras and special lighting and dramatic music playing in the background. As Randy Ferbey says, let me find his quote here. This is when he teamed up with Brad Gushu a while ago. Ryan Fry was part of that team, and Randy Ferbey.
This was over a decade ago.
Oh, I know, yeah. And like I said, we're very late here.
To be fair, there was no social media back then. Like even Facebook was just starting to.
Really?
Yeah, 2011.
2011.
Yeah, I didn't even have a smartphone back then.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, actually, you're right, because it says that there were angry emails exchanged. So just to find the quote in this article. So anyways, Randy Ferbey and Ryan Fry, safe to say, they did not exactly hit it off on this team. And it was Ryan Fry who got things fired up early Thursday, sometime in 2011. Fresh off reading reports out of High River describing Ferbey's feelings for his former teammates, Fry poured his anger into an email sent to 2 Alberta newspapers saying that Randy Ferbey should, quote, retire, and that curling has passed him by, end quote.
I can see the storyline on the show, right? Because then you can have Randy Ferbey and explain his side of the story, and then Fry telling his side, and then you can just be like up to the audience to decide who is in the right or in the wrong.
Absolutely.
Has Randy really expired in the curling competitive world?
I'll read you Randy's reply.
Yeah.
So his quote is, "A little young puke like him is going to push me into retirement? Yeah, whatever." See, this would be perfect for TV.
It's amazing. See, this is petty drama, right? And this is what we're here for. Just like the pettiness. Oh, it's amazing. Too bad Netflix didn't exist back then.
No, but it does now. And I'm sure, like,
we're going to be selling this all season.
Exactly. We'll find other things. And we know that this is just one public example that we found. We know there are people that feel this way about their teammates and ex-teammates all across the country. Mm-hmm. And we want to hear about it. So
yeah. I was actually thinking about it too. Another reason to have this Netflix special for curling, or another way it would be beneficial to the world, is it would be great. It would be a great promotional tool for tourism in Canada, especially since, a lot of these tournaments are happening in very remote, I don't know how you want to say it, but like thriving metropolises like Moose Jaw or Lethbridge, cities or large towns that are off the beaten path that some people may not know. It would be a great way to like promote these towns, because Canada is not all about Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. There's other great cities in our huge country.
That's very diplomatic of you, Kelly. I thought you were going to take a jump on some of these cities. Like, being from Montreal, we can like say all these things we want about other places. But no, you're right. The Canadiana of it would be something to play up.
Or maybe you can get the player's perspective on some of these places. They're like, oh, playing in Prince Albert again this third time this year. Get the real feelings on certain parts of Canada, because as you know, like, we're a very large country, and the Maritimes is not like the prairies, and it's not like Toronto. So anyways, I'm just saying it could be very good for the Canadian Tourism Board to get involved in this as well. I think the more people we get on board with this special, the more likely it will happen.
I agree.
And we're going to benefit from this because it was already.
That's right. We're going to make money.
Exactly.
That's what we care about.
Yeah. And then we can just retire from our jobs and do podcasting full time.
There we
go. And
go.
come to you with more thrilling, amazing content.
Living the dream. I forget who it was, but I remember reading the media guide of the Brier and Tournament of Hearts, because they publish all the occupations of the players, and one of them was a full-time podcaster. We really should know who it is. I mean, that's me dropping the ball once again, but I was like, yeah, that would be awesome.
Full-time podcaster. Interesting. I'm curious to see how they're able to monetize their podcast.
Don't listen to the Kevin Martin podcast. Listen to us. I've been seeing a lot of ads for that, by the way, because on just a completely different note, there was curling on TV this weekend.
There was a slam, right?
There was a grand slam. I watched all of a couple of ends of it, so I'm not really up to date on it. And we're going to go off script here, Kelly, if that's okay, because I have to know your opinion on this. We talked about rule changes last week. That are controversial being proposed, the no tick zone kind of thing. Well, I got to know what you think about this. For this Grand Slam, they played traditional regular curling, 5-rock rule, no gimmicks, except there was a no tick zone in the 8th end only.
What?
Yes, I was waiting for your reaction. What do you think?
Why?
I don't know. I didn't watch enough to talk about it, but
that's
so
stupid.
I kind of agree. I either like the rule or I don't. I don't like having it on half the time or an eighth of the time, but
exactly.
It's weird.
It's like, implement the rule throughout the game or just don't have it at all.
Yeah, it reminds me of the power play business, which you and I felt last year was a little bit weird, to get into, but this was really weird to me.
Yeah, I'm still not fully sold on the power play in mixed doubles in general. I don't hate it. I can accept it, but I'm not a fan. I think
the game was fine without it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the game is okay without the tick zone thing, I could maybe learn to like it, but half in, half out.
I really don't like the no tick rule. And here's another thing. It's like, I get why they want to implement that rule, but let's say, the first rock is put on the center line and the other team calls a come around draw. But then the thrower is tight and they end up hitting the center rock, pushing it off the center line. But then that just means their rock is just automatically taken out and the center line rock is put back. So I don't know. It's not advantageous for the other team. Like, it's not like they were intending to tick the shot. It just happened that way, right? And then you just lose a shot because of it.
I suppose. I'm sorry to tell you this. When you started describing shots, I was
I
like,
lost
oh
you.
boy, I haven't curled much. Like, I'm so bad at that. When people tell me the great shots they made and they say there was a rock in the 8 foot, there was a rock in the 12 foot, and I came around the corner guard and I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about, man.
You need a
But
more
no, I do get your,
visual, right? Yeah,
yeah.
because I get like they're enforcing this rule because they want to. People have gotten so good at the tick shot, and then it just kind of like the end just kind of gets boring after that, especially
hmm
with the when a team has a very high lead. But yeah, for those instances where the rock just hits the center, like the guard, then it's not beneficial in that sense. I don't know.
Stay tuned for our continued opinions on this because I don't know. I think it's hard to comment now just because
Right.
when I was watching, it's the first time I've seen curling in months. We have not played in a year and a half. The strategy is a bit beyond me at this point.
Yeah, I guess we have to see it being played out a couple
Exactly.
times and just see the outcome and reevaluate then. But just to say my initial thoughts is just I'm not a fan of it in general, and then even less of a fan of it only being applied in the eighth end.
hmm
Like what if the game only goes 7 ends?
That's that's true.
Right?
Um,
I don't know. I just no. Stop. I just stop trying to make curling gimmicky. Just stop it. Like if baseball can be the most viewed sport on TV while also being the most boring sport to watch
oh,
and
here we go
lengthiest
again.
game to watch on TV, it's not gimmicks that's going to bring people in. It's a Netflix special.
I agree. And oh, you know what? I was thinking about that because I was channel surfing the other day on my cable TV, another
Mhm.
recurring theme. It's not even like you've brought up with this Formula One thing. It's not about the sport. It's about how good a production it is.
Yep.
And
It's
I
marketing.
stumbled, yeah, exactly. I stumbled across this. I don't know if you've heard of these 30 for 30 documentaries on that TSN shows every now and then.
Yep.
So yeah, documentaries on different sports topics, and there was one I don't know on the 1986 New York Mets. Fascinating story. Kelly is really
All
intrigued
right.
right now. But this would be an interesting social experiment because I happen to know you are not interested in baseball at all. I am, but I don't care about I wasn't going to watch this, but I sat down and watched it for a good half hour because of the production, because of the dramatic music, because they're taking something that's really not much of a story, but giving it the Hollywood treatment and it
Yeah.
reels people in.
Same thing with now this is maybe a couple years. This came out in maybe 2019. The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan
hmm
documentary on Netflix too. I'm not a big basketball fan. I'm just not a basketball fan at all. And like I knew of Michael Jordan, but I didn't really know Michael Jordan. But that docuseries was like what 6 episodes or so, and I watched it and I was super I thought it was super engaging and it was really interesting and I learned about basketball a little more. Still don't watch basketball, but it was a way to get a non basketball fan watching basketball.
For me, it was Space Jam that did that, but
For all your 90s kids listening
that's
out
right.
there.
I still haven't seen the sequel. I'm too afraid to be disappointed.
You have to go in with zero expectations. Set your expectations very, very low, and then you'll just appreciate it a lot more.
I think that's the plan.
But so speaking of cable, though, just want to throw this out there. So as I was uploading our first episode of the season, the program we used to host our podcast opened a couple new features, and one of them is a poll. So if you're listening on Spotify, maybe we should try to do this, is just have a poll every now and then, and just to get the listeners'
Oh, for sure.
feedback. So for this week, the question was, do you think that curling should have a Netflix special? And 2 answers, yes or no, because you only watch cable.
Which I pointed out, I technically have to answer yes to both of those, but
So something we're trying out. So yeah, if you're listening on Spotify, go check those polls out.
and if you're listening on YouTube, if I can remember the YouTube password that we have to upload this, like it and comment in the oh boy.
No, you gotta
I'm not much of a YouTuber.
you gotta smash that like button
Okay.
and click
Smash the
subscribe.
comment section and like the I don't know what Kelly said. Let us know in the comments. You get the idea.
So I guess let's dig into this episode. So tomorrow, the day after we're recording this, so on October 25th, would be the start of the 2021 Home Hardware Pre-Trials.
That's right.
Which is a tournament. And this kind of gets into the theme of this episode is we're going to try and break down and explain in a very clear and concise manner how the whole pre-trials thing works, because as I was doing my research, I was getting lost very easily.
This is, I think, by the way, we started our season a little bit later than we did last year, and we haven't talked about this, Kelly, but I think you'll agree with me. I think we took one look at the format for the pre-trials back in August, September, whenever it was, and I think we both said, the hell with this. Let's just wait till it's more straightforward before we start.
Yeah, exactly. So traditionally, how Canada picked their curling representative is there was an Olympic trial where they invited, 10 or 11 teams, round robin, all that jazz. And the winner for the men's and the women's would be our Olympic representatives. And there are different ways to be invited to this tournament, either by winning the Brier Scotties,
having a bunch of points.
Having a bunch of points on the CTRS. I don't even remember what
I don't know what
that
it stands
acronym
for.
is.
You know what we mean.
Yeah, and then the Canada Cup. They had a couple extra slots available, and those teams were the winners of the pre-trials. And in order to get to the pre-trials, again, you either had to win other tournaments, or it was based off your CTRS points. But this year, it's a little funky because of 2020 season.
Something happened in 2020. I don't remember what, but
in order to not be demonetized. But you know what we're talking about. There was no Canada Cup. Basically, it just threw a wrench in the whole plan. So there were a few more spots available. So this is my understanding. Back at the end of September, there was the Canadian Curling Trials direct entry. And from that tournament, a couple teams got a spot into the curling trials, which are going to happen in November. But then some teams also got a berth into the home hardware pre-trials, which are happening this coming week, to then win to go to the curling trials.
Right.
Were you following me there? Does that make sense?
I think so, yes.
There's just a lot of ways to get into the curling trials, is all I have to say. So I guess we can go into just run through the teams that have already qualified, and then maybe
for the pre-trials, right?
No, for the trials.
Oh, for the Olympic trials. Okay, go for it. I have the pre-trials open, so you can cover the trials.
So for the trials, honestly, no surprises there. It's really the top teams in Canada. So for the men's, we have Epping, Gushu, Botcher, Cooey, Jacobs. And then for the women, we have Homan, Einerson, Fleury, and Jones. Really,
plus a couple more, right?
The other ones are the winners of the pre-trial direct entry tournament. So from the men's, we have McEwen and your favorite team, Dunstone. And then for the women's, we have Rock, Scheidegger, and Walker.
Okay, which I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was thinking about it. If from what I remember from last season, which is not very much, but Mike McEwen had a miserable Brier. He didn't even make the championship pool.
Yeah.
And they've not been spieling particularly well. Scheidegger, I don't think was not in the bubble. I don't think we've heard of her since at least 2019.
Even Rock, we haven't seen much of her. She's been on the slam.
Right. But with everything missing last year, I was like, so where did these teams get their points? They didn't. They won the pre-trial direct entry business. Is the idea. Okay.
But even then, but still, in order to get invited to the pre-trial direct entry, you still had to accumulate a certain number of points or win. They essentially had to win their way there. You know, Curling Canada wasn't just sending invitations to whoever they wanted. So they do deserve to be there.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But I think that's what's kind of cool with the Olympic trials is that every once in a while, or every time, you do see a couple teams or a couple names that you don't really know or you don't often see at the Scotties or the Brier, because they're coming out of provinces like Manitoba or Alberta that are very, very difficult to come out of. So
exactly,
this is kind of their shot to represent Canada and have their shot at it. So it's interesting. And that's why we also end up with some random teams that, or I don't want to say random, but, you know, I remember that year that Shannon Kleibrink won. I was like, who's this?
Well, we were a lot younger then. I think she was known. I think.
Yeah, but she wasn't, she wasn't a Jones. She wasn't, I hadn't seen her at a Scotties for a while.
I think also back then, there was a lot more parity.
Mhm.
And the trials was a bit more of a crapshoot of really it could be any one of these 10 teams or however many
Yeah.
there were. Whereas now, I mean, I suppose it still can be just because by the time we get down to the final 8 or 9 or whatever it is, there'll be some really, really good ones. But I don't know. There's always like one or two names that seem to separate themselves from the pack, right?
You never know, because those names, maybe they'll get on a hot streak and end up winning,
You never know.
which is
That's
great.
why
And
it's
that's
fun.
how, yeah, and that's how the Canadian system is. I feel like if they win, you should go. But now that you have this small group of elite teams that have the experience of playing internationally and in those big championships, I can see how people aren't as confident with sending an inexperienced team to the Olympics.
Hmm.
And not to say that they're bad players, but it's just you don't have the experience that some of these other teams have. But that's how it is. That's our system, and gotta live with
I
it.
like it.
I like it
It's
too.
easy for me to say, but
I would still pick this over Curling Canada selecting a
oh
team.
God, yeah, definitely not. I would
Yeah.
hate that.
Yeah. All right. So the pre-trials are starting tomorrow,
Hmm.
and all of the teams have been announced. So I guess we can quickly go through them
Yeah,
and
actually, I have to
maybe,
say this too. So I was
yeah.
looking at this. I'm excited because these pre-trials are in Liverpool, Nova Scotia, which is, as Kelly's wondering what the heck I'm talking about. As a Beatles enthusiast,
Mhm.
I'm just bad joke, sorry, but I've actually been there.
Really? How was
Yes,
it? Describe it to us, because I have not.
it's yes, so it's about I don't know an hour south of Halifax, and the reason I was there was when I was at the Canadian Juniors. It's the same arena that's hosting this, so
Mhm.
I've been there, and the reason I was thinking about it was because we've been on the road many a time in our curling career, staying at kind of not that nice hotels. Well,
Yeah.
this is the place to curl because they put us up in cabins by the ocean.
Mm.
And this is the best part. I was a coach, so most I think the teams all had to share a cabin. I had a whole cabin to myself.
Nice. If you were staying at a hotel, every team would have 2 hotel rooms for the team, and then the coach would have their own room.
Oh
I
yeah,
guess if
this
you're in
was
a
way better.
cabin.
Especially because all year that year we were saving money by like, okay, all of us are going to share a hotel room, and I remember thinking, never again. It's worth the money to just have my own privacy and not have to share it with 4 other guys. But yes, so
It's been for teenagers too.
oh yeah. So this was no, it's a really really nice place. The people were wonderful. The food was wonderful.
Mhm.
The so it'll be cool to see it on TV. I wonder if the players are staying in the same cabins by the ocean that we did.
I doubt that there's a huge selection of hotels in Liverpool, so perhaps?
There were others that the play. I think that a lot of the parents stayed at. I don't know. And I probably told you this story. The only complaint I had was because we had cabins. This was back in the day when the juniors was sponsored by M&M's, so we could get all you can eat frozen
Frozen
M&M
food?
stuff.
Yeah.
But because we were all in our separate cabins, we had to walk to the main building to get that stuff. So I trudged through a
Oh.
blizzard to go get this frozen food, and I bring it back to my cabin, and it's -10. I'm freezing, covered in snow, and I realize I don't have any utensils in my cabin. So I ate my microwave macaroni and cheese with a corkscrew because I was like, I'm not going back
Gross.
out there.
That's so gross.
It was either that or my fingers. So on
Yeah,
that
no.
note, let's go through the teams.
All right.
And if any of the teams are listening, let us know if you're in the cabins and bring utensils.
I'm surprised they wouldn't put utensils in the cabins
They probably
to
have
begin
since
with.
then.
Yeah.
They probably have. That was a while ago.
All right. Do you want to go through the women's teams first?
Sure. So I'm looking at, well, first of all, just the format of this. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 14 teams
Yeah.
for men, 14 teams for women. They're in 2 pools of 7. They're going to play a full round robin. And then, if I'm not mistaken, the top 2 teams in each pool are going to move on.
Hmm.
The first and second,
Like a page playoff?
yeah, sort of. I think so. Not exactly, because what we're doing is we're trying to get 2 winners out of this.
Yeah.
So the first place team in one pool will play the second place team in another pool,
Yeah.
and then That'll produce 2 winners because that matchup happens twice. The winner of that final matchup gets a trial spot. The losers are still alive and they get to enter another semifinal. And I'm wrong. The third place team lives on. The third place team, though, has to win out. So you're right. It is like a page. If you finish first and second, you get a second life.
Yeah.
If you're third in the pool, you are still alive, but you got to win out.
What do they do about tiebreakers?
I think they have tiebreakers in the schedule because I really hate the idea of a team missing on a shootout or something stupid like that.
Oh, yeah.
Another
Can you
thing that we
imagine?
hate.
I
Oh,
would
yeah.
be so upset if your shot to the trials came down to a draw to the button.
And it's starting to become a thing. Like, I know the World
Mhm.
Curling Federation has abolished tiebreakers, so we're seeing people miss playoffs because their
Yep.
shootout was off by a centimeter or something like that. So I really hope not.
I remember when we were competing in juniors, that happened a couple times where we didn't make it to Sunday because we had a tied record with some other teams, but our
Oh.
shootout score at the start of the tournament wasn't the best, so we didn't get through to the playoffs.
Kelly,
And it just sucks.
the number of times that our team went 2-1, because we would do World Cup style pools of 4, and we would
Yeah.
have to top 2 move on. And the number of times that we went 2-1, but with a lousy shootout and found ourselves at home on Sunday,
Yeah.
every tournament.
It sucks. And I get it because you have to fit a whole tournament in a weekend, especially at that level. But
Right.
it's annoying. It's annoying.
It is.
And it's just
Okay,
that
so-
much more annoying if it's for the if the Olympics are on the line, right?
Oh yeah, like you can't have somebody miss out because of that.
Mhm.
It'd be awful. So going back to the teams here, so they're in 2 pools of 7. I guess we'll start with Pool A. I have no idea what order these are in. I don't know if they're seeded or it's not alphabetical. It's not by, I don't know what order we're going in here, but we have Team Corinne Brown out of
Yep.
BC. We've seen her at the Tournament of Hearts the last 2 years and lots of junior success there. So
Yep.
team that's really knocking on the door. Beth Peterson is in that pool as well. We saw her at last year's Tournament of Hearts, and she made the championship pool, I believe.
Yeah, she's also freshly out of juniors.
That's right, I think.
Not her
Yes.
entire team, but she is.
Justin Murphy.
Never heard them.
From
Mississauga Golf and Country Club.
Thank you. Okay, you can tell me where they're from. Good.
Yeah.
So Ontario, there's a lot of Ontario teams here. Krista McCarville, who has proven that if you live in North Ontario, change your name to Krista. Because I remember it was not her last year; it was Krista Burns at the Tournament of Hearts. McCarville sat out the year because of COVID. But we'll get to our predictions later. But spoiler alert, they're going to be one of mine. Penny Barker out of Saskatchewan, who we've seen at the Tournament of Hearts before a couple of years ago. So we've also got Jacqueline Harrison out of Ontario, I believe, and Carrie Galusha from Northwest Territory.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Yeah, they've been around for so long, and there's so much talk every time at the Tournament of Hearts about how hard it is to compete from the north and all of that.
No
and
kidding.
so it's good to see them there, and I hope they do well. Okay, so that's Pool A. I don't know if that was an order of seeding or not. No idea. Pool B, we've got the veteran of, I believe, 12 Tournament of Hearts I read earlier today, Suzanne Burt.
Oh, okay.
From the
Out of
island.
PA.
Mackenzie Zacharias, who we saw at the Tournament of Hearts last year, who the year prior, right before COVID, was the junior representative from Canada. And did she win the Worlds? I think so. I don't know.
I don't remember.
Yeah, everything's a blur pre-COVID.
Google that if you're really curious.
Yeah, don't count on us. But you know who you can count on? Yeah, I was about to call you Carrie. I'm still thinking of Galusha. You know who you can count on, Kelly?
Who?
Sherry Anderson.
Legend.
She is there.
She
is there.
She's gonna be like like the Howard of women's curling, just keeps playing. Never
Good
gives
foreshadowing because Glenn's in this too, by the way. We've also got Holly Duncan from Ontario, I believe. Darcy Robertson, who we have seen at a couple of Tournament of Hearts a few years ago. She's from Manitoba. So in the years that Jennifer Jones was Team Canada, Darcy Robertson got in there a couple of times out of Manitoba. But she's here. Danielle Inglis from Ontario. And Jill Brothers familiar name out of Nova Scotia, who I believe is from Liverpool.
Oh, well, like originally.
Originally, yeah.
Okay, because
Like,
they're curling out of the Halifax Curling Club
right,
now.
but I think she was
Originally
born there.
from-
I
Oh,
remember she was the
interesting.
guest speaker when we were there too. Do you want to make predictions before we go to the men's side?
Sure. So we have 2 teams that are going to be coming out of this, right?
Ultimately, yeah, two teams. And they could be from the same pool. It's possible, I
Right.
believe.
So I think like you predicted, I would put 1 vote for McCarville.
Okay. I would too.
And then for the second one, I think it just depends on who's going to be, it could be like almost anyone.
Yeah.
But I have to pick.
But you do have to.
I
Look at
have
Kelly
to
trying to
pick.
stall.
So I'm going to go with, let's go with Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the same corner of the country as you.
Oh, sorry.
I'll say
I'm just saying that I picked Brothers because I feel like we need some more Eastern representation in the trials because it's very lacking right now.
I like that. I'm going to go to the same corner of the country as you. I'll say McCarville first of all, but I'm going to go with Suzanne Burt.
Oh, okay. I'm going to note this down so we can discuss next week.
Right. If anybody on Team McCarville or Burt or Brothers is listening, we apologize because one of our weekly traditions is everything we say never comes true. So you can blame us if it doesn't pan out.
Yep. It's true. Okay, noted. So let's jump into the men's.
The men's side. Okay. Once again, I don't know about the order here. Maybe it's by seeding. I kind of think it is. I don't know. Pool C. They call it Pool C, but it's really Pool A for men.
Okay, so you have CD for men. Right.
Yeah. So in this one, we've got Jason Gunlixon.
Your favorite.
He doesn't really throw enough weight, in my opinion, but, maybe he'll learn one day.
Well, I mean, he has a good team, like Adam Casey, Wozniak, and Connor Nyegovin. Is that how you pronounce his name?
I think so. And they've been pretty good at the last 2 Briars.
Yeah.
Not really coming close to winning the whole thing, but really making it interesting, which is all we really care about.
Yeah, they're definitely contenders.
Yeah, they can beat anybody there. Hey, this is interesting. The next team, the return of Pat Simmons. Remember him?
Oh, I haven't seen Pat Simmons in a long time.
I haven't seen him in a while either, but he's back. He's skipping a team. And if this is by seeding, he's seeded number 2 in this group.
Wait, his third is Colton Lawn. Is that the same lot that played in the mixed doubles last year?
Yes, I think so.
And lost the final?
I believe so.
Yeah,
I knew that name from somewhere.
Yeah. And I guess he's playing with his brother too, Tanner Lott at lead.
Okay.
Or cousin, or I don't.
Yeah.
I'm sure Lott's not that a common surname, but
I suppose not. No.
From Winnipeg
This is helpful,
Beach.
by the way. Yeah. This is helpful, by the way, because I can only see the names of the skips. You can have the rosters because this website is just. Ugh. We've also got Tanner Horgan. Who's on his team?
A bunch of people I've never seen before. Oh, sorry. But we have, so they're curling out of the Cataraqui Golf and Country Club.
Cataraqui. I've been there.
Cataraqui from Kingston.
Yeah,
so
in Kingston.
Tanner Horgan at skip with John Buke.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember this team. This was...
Wes Forget or Forget and Scott Chadwick at least.
Okay, yeah, I know this because I lived in Kingston for a little bit. But this was the team that made the Briar a couple of years ago out of Ontario with Scott McDonald as their skip.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And I hope this team goes far because my favorite player on this team is Wes Forget, the second, because he looks like your average curler, but when he has to throw weight, he's a rock lifter.
Oh.
And I mean a retro rock lifter. He lifts
the whole
his
backswing
90 degrees. His back arm is parallel to the ice holding the rock.
Geez.
I don't know how he does it.
Who taught him that?
I don't know.
Because they're not that much older than we are. So
no, they're our age, if not younger.
And we definitely were not taught to do the backswing.
No, I think we were taught that we would get kicked out of the curling club if we ever did that.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Props to him. We've also got Jeremy Hardy, who, with respect, I don't know who that is.
From the Glencoe Curling Club in Calgary.
Okay. Well,
but their third
anybody...
is Kyler Kleibrink, so I
Okay,
would
yeah.
assume that's maybe Kleibrink's son.
You know how it is. Anybody from Alberta, they can't really be good, right?
And definitely with Shannon Kleibrink as their coach, I'm pretty sure that's her son.
We're making enemies across the country today. I love it.
I wouldn't call it making enemies. I would say we're developing drama for the upcoming Netflix special.
There you go. Of course.
There you go.
Perfectly said.
All right, let's keep going.
We've got Karsten Sturmay, who has been knocking on the door in Alberta for a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got to an Alberta final recently as well. But you know how it is. If you're in the Alberta final, you're staring down Cooey or Botcher or somebody really, really good. So
yeah.
But probably very much deserves to be here. And then a little bit closer to home, we've got two Quebec teams in Pool C. We've got Mike Fournier, who we've seen at the Brier a couple of times, and Vincent Roberge, son of legendary Quebec curler François Roberge.
Yeah, I think it's the first time we've had so many Quebec representatives.
Quick shout out to Vincent Roberge. He went undefeated, I believe, at the Quebec provincials back when we had provincials pre-COVID.
Right.
He went undefeated, I believe, and then lost the final to Alec Bédard, that really young team.
Right.
It was a very young Quebec final in 2019.
On that team with Vincent Roberge, you have Jean-Michel Arsenault, and he won the Canadian Juniors actually with the Quebec team with William Zion and et compagnie.
That's right.
Back in 2010?
I think it was before that. I
something
think
like
yeah,
that.
we're
Yeah.
It's been a while. But
it's been a while.
Yeah. But we've played against them at some point.
Yeah. No, they're definitely part of he is, not the rest of the team, is part of I'd call our generation.
Yep. They're going to the Olympics and we're sitting here talking about it.
All right, keep going.
Okay, so that's Pool C. And then we've got Pool D. We've got Colton Flash, who was, if I remember, he played with Kevin Cooey for, I think, all of a year, maybe 2 years, and then was booted in favor of bringing back John Morris. So he's skipping his own team with, I think, Caitlin Schneider, is that right? And the Marsh brothers?
Yep, from the Nutana Curling Club in Saskatoon.
Every time I hear that, I think of Nutella.
Me too.
It's not just me. Okay, good.
Yeah, no. I always find it weird, and I know I just don't associate it with Saskatoon, but it's the big curling club there, so.
It is. And then, as Kelly foreshadowed earlier, Glenn Howard back again.
Yes, with his son at third, Scott Howard, and David Mathers at second, and Tim March as leads. So they've been playing together for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. And they did well at the Brier this year.
Yep.
If we remember, that's when so Glenn was in I think it was a snowmobiling accident or something, and he couldn't play. And Wayne Madaw came off the bench, didn't know anything about directional sweeping or anything like that, and somehow turned back the clock and won a whole bunch of games.
It was amazing.
It was fun to watch. I hope they do it again.
Unfortunately, they don't have Wayne Madaw listed as their alternate
Oh, really?
in here, yeah.
Oh,
maybe he'll make an appearance. I don't know, but he's not listed on the website.
It's probably part of the strategy to have him just like show up and catch everybody off guard.
Right.
Glenn's been down the block before. He knows what he's doing. Okay. So we've also got Braden Calvert, who has been very successful on the junior stage out of Manitoba. In fact, he won the junior nationals the year they were in Liverpool when I was there.
Oh, okay.
So he'll be familiar with everything there. It's been very kind to him. Tyler Tardy as well, also very well decorated in the junior side of things out of BC. Then we've got Pat Ferris, who I don't know where he's from or who he is. This is where you bail me out, Kelly.
He's from the Grimsby Curling Club in Ontario. I don't even know where that is. Hold on, let me just Google.
Yeah, that's a little geography lesson here.
Yeah. For Grimsby Curling Club, it's just south of from Lake Ontario between Hamilton and St. Catharines.
Okay. So the GTA.
The
GTA. Yeah, really out there. Is that just me? Like, I just think of everything from Toronto all the way to Windsor as Toronto.
GTA, yeah. Well, that's what I think a lot of people think. Just all of Ontario is Toronto.
Yep.
Not that I agree with that statement. but it's
No, but
just the reality.
we're dishing out insults across the country here. We got to get our Ontario shots in. So.
Exactly.
Okay, back to Atlantic Canada for the next one. Paul Fleming, veteran of many briars.
Hmm.
We see him all the time. I love Paul Fleming. I love watching him curl. Slides with that old brownie brew. He's also, I think, like 7 feet tall.
Oh, really?
Well, okay, no, I'm exaggerating. He's a big guy, but
Okay. It's hard to tell on TV sometimes because you never get them full shot with, something as a reference. So,
that's it. And my favorite thing with him is they always talk about how, Brad Gushu, Rachel Homan, whoever, they're full-time curlers, or maybe they're full-time parents, or they might have day jobs, but they really go in once a week, right? Where
right.
when they talk about Paul Fleming, they keep pointing out that he owns a fish and chips restaurant on the harbor in Halifax or something like that. And I'm going, that's so cool. That's like an authentic Nova
Canadian.
Scotian Canadian experience. I'm
Yeah.
thinking if I'm ever there, I gotta go find that restaurant.
Is this something you plan on doing sometime soon? A dream?
Hey, I don't know. We can travel again, right?
That's true. That's true.
That's right.
But I'm not a big fan of fish and chips, so
No, me neither, to be honest with you.
also as a vegetarian.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's that too.
I forgot.
But I would go in and be like, I'll have just the fries. And can I say hi to Paul Fleming? Can he sign my
Yeah.
broom or something?
Oh, take a picture?
Yeah. And then Sean Grassy, who I believe from Manitoba.
Yeah, they're from the Deer Lodge Curling Club from Winnipeg.
Okay. And that rounds it out.
All right. Well, we got a good mix.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who I would pick. I'm definitely going Gunlixon.
Me too.
There's a lot of teams, unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with. Kind of debating, do I go with Howard or I'm going to go with Team Flash.
Okay, interesting pick. I can't say no to Glenn Howard. I'm
So you're
going
doing...
so I'm doing Gunlixon and Howard.
Okay.
With maybe like a dark horse pick of Tanner Horgan.
Okay.
I don't know. Just like if he pulls it off, I just want a little bit of credit for throwing it out there. Is what I'm getting at.
Well, stay tuned next week. Or actually, yeah, maybe we have the results in 2 weeks, depending on when the final is and when we decide to record.
It's true. By the time people are listening to this, it'll already be over, so we'll already be wrong.
Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting. A lot of curling coming up for the next couple weeks. So I don't know how much of this I'll be able to watch, but I'll definitely be watching the finals, if not the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. I think they're on TSN.
Yeah, because some of us actually have day jobs that we have to do.
Yeah, afraid so.
So moving on from the trials, I do want to bring up one new thing that the WCF, I guess they're really bored over the summer and then just came up with a whole bunch of new ideas to revamp curling, none of which was this Netflix special. At the last General Assembly, they've kind of come up with a new way to structure the whole World Championships and how to get to the World Championships. And again, I am not a fan of this. I don't know if
and
you
I am not aware of this. So
you haven't heard about this at all? Okay.
I know about it. I saw a listener got in touch with us to tell us about this, but I kind of did not follow up. I'm glad you did.
I'll send you a link. Actually, on the WCF website, they have a press release kind of explaining this and the reasoning and how it's going to work and whatnot. So essentially, they want to help promote curling across the world. And there's definitely it's very difficult for new teams or new countries to get that experience and even get to play in a tournament that will give them that experience. The Europeans, they have a format where it kind of works, where you have the A, the B, and the C, and then all these European teams, they compete, and the top two, they have a relegation system, right? So the top two of Group B will move up to A, and the bottom two of A will move down to B.
I've always liked that.
Yeah, and it's actually great. So
exactly, and it takes the geography out of the context, right? Because really the only geographical thing is you have to be in Europe. And what we've also learned is that the definition of Europe is a little bit more expansive than we thought in curling.
It's very, yeah. So, but it's kind of good in the sense that once you're a new country that started playing curling, you're going to be in Group C and you're going to be playing with teams that are relatively in the same playing level as you are. And then if your country just really develops curling and your players get good, then you go up to the B and then you're playing in that little higher level. And then you can get to A where you're playing against Sweden and Switzerland and all these teams. Outside of Europe, there is no other tournament like that. Like there is the America's Championship where Canada and or the US has to play like Brazil for one of the two spots at the Worlds. And then there's also a Pacific Asia Championship. So that's where you'll get like Japan plays Korea, China, Australia, New Zealand are in there as well. So the WCF essentially want to move away from this format. They want to keep the European Championships as they are,
Okay.
but then have a pan-continental championship for everyone else. Within that championship, you'd have 5 Asian teams and 3 American teams, and they would all
Okay.
play. And they would also have that European structure where you'll have an A group, a B group, and
And
there's just not enough countries
okay.
to have a C group. But if there were, like, essentially they're taking the same structure of the European and
Okay.
just applying it
For
to
the
the rest
whole
of the
rest of the
world.
world. Okay.
Exactly. So you have Europe and rest of world. And the whole point was to get those other countries kind of more exposure to curling and get that experience. And I just don't see this working. And again, like the main thing is you have a geography problem.
Yeah, that's going to be annoying to get to.
Yeah. Like, what if you have a team from Africa, a team from Brazil and Korea? Like, that's literally the entire world.
Yeah, that's a bit of a geographical challenge. That's one thing.
And I think at that point, I also don't understand why Europe is excluded just because they have so many countries within the same
Well,
geographic proximity.
but is this something to like go on at the same time as the Europeans? Just to have like another tournament like that? Because what we're saying, we like the Europeans.
Yeah.
Is it like just to have that on the side and have like our own version of it?
Yeah, but the winners of this is going to determine which teams go to the World Championships.
Okay. So how would that work? Like 5 from Europe, 5 from this pan-continental or something like that?
How it's going to be structured is this pan-continental event will qualify 5 teams to the World Championships, while the European Curling Championships will have 7 guaranteed qualification places. And then
Proportional to like the number of countries in each tournament, I think.
I
Okay.
assume so. And then there's going to be a 13th team. That team will be determined by the aggregate performance of the top 5 teams from the previous year's World Championship. The better performing
Oh,
zone
Kelly,
will
it's too
then
late for this.
receive the 13th place. Like, what is this?
Oh, I that was so over my head.
Okay, and then I thought about it and I'm like, at this point, if you really want to include everyone in the world, I mean, I love the European Championship, but it makes no sense to me why we just have a Europeans and then the rest of world. At that point, I think you might as well turn the entire world into that A, B, C division. Your A division will be your world championship. But at the end of every world's, take the bottom 2 teams will be relegated down to the B division, and then you'll have separate world championships, but they'll just be like a B and a C, and then the top 2 teams from that B will move to up to the A to compete in the worlds the next year.
I think that's a good idea. I think the world should operate like that because one thing that did pop up here, and I will admit I did absolutely no research into this whatsoever, as usual.
You're learning this for the first time.
I'm learning this for the first time pretty much. But one thing that I think probably upset people is that this could technically knock Canada out of a world championship.
Yeah.
But that could still technically happen if Brazil were to beat us in one of these challenge things, right?
Exactly. But I also think that Canada and the US are very much the dominant teams in North America, and a lot of the other dominant teams are in Europe. So outside of Canada if you compare Canada to the rest of the world, there's like a big gap there. Not to say like Japan or South Korea, like the South Korea women's team has had a lot of recent success, but there's a big gap between Canada and the rest of the world. And not to sound pretentious or anything, but it's kind of like annoying for
Um,
Canada to then have to go and play this, which
I
is not any
suppose.
different than if they were just to have an Americana,
I suppose, which is
right?
why, like, I get it. It's a little bit awkward to go and have to play against a country that, again, with respect, is not going to really
Yeah.
knock you out, especially because I think they do a best of three. Like if a miracle happened, maybe they take one game, but they're not going to beat Canada several times in a row. But I like the idea of having the whole World Championship be a European format, and it means that it would be hard for Canada to potentially stay in the top 10 or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were to fall out, my attitude is so be it. We both love the Europeans, and it just makes me
Yeah.
think of the Euros. So that's why I warm up to it a little bit.
Yeah, and like I just have a hard time wrapping my head around why is the Europeans going to stay intact while the rest of the world has to play as one.
I
And I
mean,
wonder if there's a little bit of sponsorship money, politics.
that's interesting because what I'm thinking of is that if we had a tournament that mirrored the Europeans, like with the A section of, I don't know, maybe 10 teams in the A of Canada, the US, China, Japan, Korea, and so on, and Russia for sure,
Mhm.
Germany. Oh, no, sorry, Europe. My bad. Actually, is Russia count as Europe for this?
Europe, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So eventually you start to reach. But then when you hit the B section, you'll have federations with probably not as many resources. And I'm just going to make something up here. Like we could, or let's go really extreme. Let's say the C. And I apologize to
Mhm.
these countries in advance, but we have like Mexico, New Zealand. New Zealand's been around before, but we have countries with very unknown curling federations from all over the world, literally, to get them all together in Rio de Janeiro, just making something up, to get them all somewhere. That's a lot of
That's
resources, a lot of
expensive.
money for
Yeah.
federations that probably don't have it. So
Mhm.
maybe I'm just making this up here. This could be totally wrong, but maybe I'm onto something here. Maybe it's part of the, okay, you want your curling federation? Well, you've got to fly over to here for your championship. Because I feel like a lot
Right.
of countries are just declaring interest in curling. They really don't have much interest in it. They just see it as a way to eventually get an Olympic medal, because to everybody who has not done this looks easy.
Mhm.
So maybe it's just a way of forcing them to put their money where their mouth is, but what do I know? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get it from the WCF's point of view. Like their role in all of this is to promote curling across the world, and they have to find ways to be able to do that. But I don't know. I'm not sold on this right now.
No.
But also, and this will move forward for the 2022-23 season. So next year, how is Canada going to handle this? Because right now our Brier and our Scotties happen a couple weeks prior to the World Championship, but this event will happen in the fall. Who's going to represent Canada at that championship? Is it going to be the same team that will represent Canada at the World?
I
And if
wonder.
so, when do we select them? If that's the case, then they'd have to be selected a year ahead of time. And we're not a fan of that, of selecting a team a year ahead of time, because so much can change within a year, right?
Yeah, there'd be a lot of things to figure out.
One of the main reasons we have our national championships right before the Worlds is that the team that wins will be hot and fresh and ready to and get us that gold. But then if it's a different team that has to go and represent Canada at this pan-continental championships, kind of sucks, because you're like, I got Canada the spot to go into the Worlds, yeah, I don't get to represent Canada in that spot.
I suppose.
But that's just a purely like selfish Canadian centric point of
Yeah,
view
and
here.
what I'm
Yeah,
trying
that's
to
our problem to deal with.
that's it. And what I'm trying to do, not just to shamelessly grow our audience around the world, but is that I don't really like. I get a sense of entitlement from Canadian
Canadians?
curling
Oh,
every
for
now and
sure.
then, of like, well, we automatically deserve to be in the World Championship. We're the best country in the world, and we are in terms of
Mhm.
numbers. No one's going to argue that. But I, for one, enjoy seeing the other countries catch up. And I think anything
And
that's
they are.
healthy, and they are, and it's good, and anything that's healthy for the sport around the world, go for it. And if it forces Canada to, oh no, we have to have another tournament to decide this, well, you know what? We can deal with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got so much going for us in curling. I have other curling concerns in this country, but when it comes to competitive curling, I don't know. I have a hard time getting upset about this.
I think for me, like the one issue is just like I don't understand why the Europeans is staying the Europeans and everyone else has to play as one. Like either keep it continental base, and that way you'll always make sure that you'll have a proportional amount of teams from each part of the world, as opposed to set number of European teams and then the rest of the world. That's just my thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, I would favor just abolishing all these continental championships and just make the whole world as a relegated division. I guess that's it for this week's episode. That's all I have. I don't know if you have any other final thoughts, Rob.
Not really. It'll be fun to watch the pre-trials, and
no, it'll be interesting. First time I'm watching curling on TV this season, so
which you still have to do with cable. You can't do on Netflix yet. So
catch us next week. Bye.
Take care.